Hi guys, and welcome to Cisca Stitches. Today's tutorial is going to be on how to do this ruffled flower or ruffled fabric rosette. It's actually called a rosette because it is in the form of a rose. Definition of a rosette is that it is a flower shaped decoration. You can use any type of fabric you want. You can use silk, you can use chiffon, you can use crepe like I did, you can use satin fabric for this, and you can actually make this in different sizes. If you want to place this in front of your dress, if you want to place it at your sleeve, if you want to do this and place it on as a headband, you can actually do that. If you're not subscribed to my channel yet, please click the subscribe button, and also don't forget to click the bell so you get notified whenever I post new videos. So I'm going to be measuring from point A to point B because that's the area I want to cover at the waist area if I want to do that, or if I want to place this on my sleeve, I measure from point A to point B as well. So you just need to measure a distance that you want your rose flower to actually cover. Now I have my fabric. What I'm going to do is I'll just use a thumb tack to mark a point. I'll be doing my measurement around that point. My distance from point A to point B is 7. So the midpoint is 3.5, but I'll be adding half an inch allowance, making that 4. So half an inch to 3.5 is 4, and 4 times 2 will give us 8. So I'm going to be marking the bottom and then 8 inches, so from 0 to 8 inches with 4 in the middle. That's because if I should take half an inch all around and I measure a straight distance from point A to point B, I'll be getting my 7 inches back because half an inch is taken at the top and half an inch is taken at the bottom. I'm going to be taking this all around like so with 4 in the middle. I make sure that 4 stays where the thumb tag is as I rotate the tape rule around the thumb tag. So I make sure I mark a lot of points so that my circle can come out really well. This is actually simple for me. It doesn't require any calculations at all. So once I've done enough markings, you can see the circle is formed. We have a nearly perfect circle. I'm going to mark the points to form, of course, the real circle. So once I'm done marking the points, the next thing I'm going to do is to cut this out. If there's any other method you can use to achieve a circle like this, please go ahead and do that, but I decided to go with this. I'm going to cut out the circle now, and after cutting it out, we are going to make a duplicate of this circle. We need 2 circles for this. I've cut it out now. I'm just going to take that out and then place the fabric under it, and then we're going to cut this out. I've cut out the second one right here, and then we have to, if you're using a thick fabric, there will be no need to use a fusible interfacing to make it thicker. So this is what a fusible interfacing looks like. It can be thick, it can be thin like mine. So I'm just going to use one of the circles I've cut out to cut the fusible interfacing, and then once I'm done, what I'm going to do is apply some heat with a pressing iron so that it fuses to the fabric. So it has fused already. I did that off camera, and then I'm going to place the other circle with right sides touching, and then we're going to sew this with a half an inch seam allowance. So right here I've sewn that all around, and then I left a 2-inch space which we're going to use later on to turn it inside out, or yeah, inside out, outside in, whatever. So I'm going to notch the edges of the circle because we want this to come out really well. And then once we are done with the notches, I'm going to turn the circle inside out, and then the next thing I'm going to do is that 2-inch hole that I used to turn it, I'm going to do a top stitch around that place, and then we're going to press our circle so it looks nice and flat. With top stitch now, our circle is looking, well, our almost perfect circle is looking neat. We're going to keep this aside and then move to the fabric that we're going to be using to make the ruffles. You can actually decide to fold your fabric into 2, measure what you want and cut. What I'll be doing is I'm going to measure the entire width of what I need, and what I need is 2.5. that when we fold it into 2, I'll be having 1.25 inches. So I mark 2.5 throughout the entire length of this fabric, and then what I'm going to do is join the points. Now you actually need, well, long strips of fabric to make this ruffle, and mine will end up being 2.5 inches by 158 inches. So once I'm done joining the points, what we are going to do is cut this out. Please ensure that yours is as straight as possible. Once we are done joining, I'm going to cut the fabric out, and I'm going to cut 3 pieces of this so that I end up with that 158 inches of fabric by 2.5 inches. Yeah, I've cut out the 3 pieces now. So the next I'm going to do is join the edges of each of the fabric together by half an inch, so I have a very long strip of fabric. And then once I do that, I'm going to fold my fabric into 2, and I'll be using a zigzag stitch to conceal the raw edges. I don't think I want to, sew with a seam allowance, turn it over, press it, and then start stitching. So you can see how neat the zigzag stitch actually looks. That is what I went with, and I concealed this edge as well before actually doing the zigzag stitch. I left that piece there so that if this fabric is not enough, I'll just join more fabric to that end and then close it up. So the next thing I did was to use a hand needle to do my gathered stitch. I didn't want to use a sewing machine because of the possibility of the thread cutting, so I threaded this giant needle. I actually used a very big needle so that I'll be able to gather as much fabric on the needle before actually, pulling the needle out of the fabric. So you would notice that the ruffles are actually already forming, and this didn't even take me up to 20 minutes to actually stitch throughout the entire length of the fabric, which is 158 inches. Well, I think that's partially because I used a very, very big needle, and I made sure to do this loose stitch close to the zigzag stitch, because I need to make sure that at the end of the day I actually have my 1-inch ruffle. Remember, we folded into 2 to give us 1.25, and then I did a zigzag stitch. So I'm done with the stitching, and you can see the ruffles are already forming. So what I did now was to mark a center point at that foundation. This is actually the foundation, the base for the ruffle, and then I continue to go round and round and round in a spiral fashion till I got to the end, and I made sure it was close to the edge of this circle, because once we sew, we don't want that part to show. What I'm going to do next now is take this to my machine, and I made sure that the edge of the beginning of this was actually inside, because you don't want that to be poking out of your rose design. So I'm going to start stitching now, and I stitch with a seam allowance of 0.25. remember, that is what I gave to mine. You can actually increase yours, but this is what I'm going to be doing. I'll be stitching round and round, and I made sure to stretch out the ruffles so that it is evenly spaced. So that is what I did. So yeah, I keep sewing round and round, and so that's what you keep doing till you get to the midpoint. I noticed that when I got to the center of this, I wasn't able to sew around that point. So I'm going to get my unfinished rose design out, and I'm going to show you what I do next. So yeah, this is what we have, and this is the amount of space we need to cover. So what I'm going to do is take the rest of the fabric and see how much fabric I need for this. So I'm just going to take it round around that point, and once I'm able to close it, I know, okay, this is how much I need, and we're going to cut the excess off. I cut my needle at that point, and then I'm going to loosen it out. The reason we did not cut it close to where we'll be ending it is because we want to tie a knot around that place. So once I tie the knot there, I'm going to cut the excess off, and then we're going to also get rid of the excess fabric. So I cut the thread out, I cut the excess fabric close to where I knotted, and then I'm going to loosen the zigzag stitch at that point, because I did a lot of zigzag stitches. So I'm going to loosen the zigzag stitch, and then I'm going to fold that fabric in and do a top stitch to seal the raw edges. So that is what I did before we ended up closing up the rose design, the rosette design. I'm done doing the top stitch, and I'm going to fold that place in, so it's easy for me to I'm going to fold that edge, so it's easy for me to actually hide it in there. So you can see it's actually closed up. What I'm going to do is use a hand needle to finish up the rose design. And while I was sewing, while I was tacking this down, I made sure to check to ensure that no fabric was loose anywhere. Please do that so that you have a very, very perfect design. Once I'm done, I check it again. Once I'm satisfied that everything is in place, I'm going to do the final knotting, and then voila, our rosette is ready. Our ruffled fabric rose fabric flower design is ready. I'm going to tie the knot. You can see how the back is. This part is not going to show anyway, so you don't really need to be bothered. But if you have another method on how to, make that part neat, please go ahead and do that. This is it, guys. This is how our rosette looks. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope it was helpful to you. Please remember to subscribe, share this video with your sewing mates, your sewing friends, and yeah, I'll see you in my next video. Bye, guys.